Hi guys, so before we get into it, a couple of quick disclaimers. Firstly, there will be mild spoilers today, but I'm not going to tell you who the killer is. And secondly, you'll find all my other Giallo film reviews in my Giallo playlist, except for the ones directed by Dario Argento. They have their own playlist. So, Eyeball, directed by Umberto Lenzi. I haven't gotten on with this guy's films in the past. I'm still having therapy because of Cannibal Ferox, and I did try and watch Nightmare City once, but I didn't make it past the first 15 minutes. I probably didn't give the film enough of a chance this particular night that I watched it. But even with his other films, some of them I've heard of, even if I haven't seen them, things like Orgasmo and Spasmo. So possibly Lenzi does have some films in his cupboard that are for me. I just haven't found them yet. But I think Eyeball is at least a minor step in the right direction. I'm not a fan of this title, though. It would be fine in normal circumstances, but originally they had a much better one, a much more traditional and long Italian giallo sort of title. So this film was originally called Red Cats in a Glass Maze. What a cracking title. They should have gone for that. I wanted to have that on the thumbnail, not Eyeball. On a related subject, the other day I discovered this website. What it does is generate for you your own Giallo film with a title and a plot synopsis, and you can literally do this in like 1 second. If you just type in on Google Italian Giallo film title generator or something like that, it's literally the top result that comes up. You click into it and it'll do the business for you. So the film that was created for me was called The Glass Doll with Iron Fingers Stained in Red. Yes, that's a great title. And this is the plot synopsis. A deeply religious man is strangled under the very eyes of the police. An English priest is witness to the crime. Despite several false leads, he discovers that he himself is actually responsible for the crimes. So there we go. Thanks to this website, I've now got my own Giallo movie. I just need to film it, and maybe one day I'll try and get the funding for it. But do try that for yourself and see what Giallo film is created for you. We're here to talk about Eyeball, though. This is set in Barcelona. It's about a group of American tourists who are traveling around the city on a coach. There's like a guy with a microphone sat at the front pointing out all the best hotspots, etc. At the end of the day, they're dropped off at their hotel, the Hotel Presidente, and then the following day, the same coach picks them up again and takes them around another bunch of sites that they can look at. But very early on in the holiday, somebody gets murdered right where the tourists just happen to be. And then the following day, someone from their group is murdered. So this is two deaths in the space of 2 days. Both have happened right where the tourists are. So obviously, there is a killer on the loose, and eventually at the end of the film we will find out who it is. Now, this is a plot that almost could have been written by AI because there are a couple of very glaring flaws in it. So firstly, if you're a member of this tourist group and you've seen two murders happen on consecutive days, why would you come out of your hotel for day three? Why would you risk that? Surely you just either go home or at least go and explore Barcelona on your own. Just stay well away from this tourist party. But no, everybody in the group just carries on as normal and just expects nothing bad to happen to them. Secondly, the police's reaction to the second murder is very curious because they don't put a shadow on this group. They don't get anybody to follow them. They don't try and set up a trap for the killer or anything like that. The police literally just investigate each murder scene and then go home and then turn up again when somebody else gets murdered. And it's like, how do you expect this thing to stop if you're not taking any measures to make it stop? The police in Spain are just useless. It's pretty cool that the film is set in Barcelona. The only other film I can think of set here is Bird Box Barcelona, a pretty weak sequel in my eyes. And yes, they definitely did film Eyeball in Barcelona. I checked online. I suspect that we're not seeing the very best that Barcelona has to offer in Eyeball. They were probably just filming wherever they were allowed to, kind of a thing. But I've seen movies set in worse places than this, definitely. There's an early scene where a couple of characters are having coffee on top of a building, and in the background, you can just see the sprawling cityscape of 1970s Barcelona. It's pretty cool. I do have to question the itinerary though of this tourist group because they get taken to some piss poor places. A murder happens in a pigsty at one point. Now, I don't know if I missed something in the script, but why on earth would these tourists be taken to some rural farm outside of Barcelona? I'd want my money back if I was on this trip, definitely. Another place they get taken to is like this medieval keep. I guess that's okay. But on another day, they're taken to an amusement arcade that has a ghost ride in it, a ghost train ride. Imagine you've travelled all the way to Spain from the United States, and then you get on the tourist bus, and the guy with the microphone says, "Right, today we're going to the amusement arcade. I hope you changed some euros at Dulles before you flew over." The only actor I recognised in this is John Richardson. He plays the lead role. Very prolific in his time. He's been in tons of stuff that I've covered on the channel over the years. Things like She, 1 Million Years BC, Torso, The Church. I didn't recognise anybody else in the cast. The characters spend too much time separated from each other in this, though. I mean, they're all over the place. I had trouble keeping track of where they were. When I pictured this film in my head, I thought that they would all be together a lot of the time, and then occasionally somebody would wander off long enough to get killed. But no, it's not like that. There's the occasional scene where they're together on the bus, but a lot of the time, some of them will be in a hotel room, some of them will be in a bar somewhere, some of them would have wandered off somewhere else. And I had no clue, to be honest, where everybody was in the movie at any given time. They just seemed to come and go, and that's definitely a problem for the movie. But there is a pretty cool central mystery. I like the MO of the killer in this. So they like to kill people by stabbing them in the left eye. And then while the victim is suffering the pain of that, they'll get another stab in the gut, and then that's them done. Though I did have to question whether it would be possible to get somebody perfectly in the eye every single time. Remember, a victim isn't just going to stand there and let you stab them in the eye. They're going to be like ducking and weaving and trying to avoid thrust, right? So you've just got to sort of not think of that a little bit when you're watching the movie. But I was very satisfied with the ending. When the reveal comes and we find out who the killer is, I thought to myself, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I did find the whole plot to be quite clever once it was all revealed. This film is functional, it's watchable enough, but it does feel like the latest in a long production line of Italian 70s giallo films. It's not directed with any great style. It feels kind of a lazy film at times. The soundtrack is the same sort of music that I've heard in many films just like this. I was mostly having a good time when the kills were happening, and I'm not usually a kills sort of guy. It's not my number one priority in horror anyway, but there are some good ones in this. Most notably, the one that happens in the ghost train. That is the standout moment of Eyeball. I really did enjoy that. I do feel, though, I've got to return to the topic of the inept police force. All of the police scenes in this are just tiresome to get through. It's just pure filler. It's like, how can we complete our intended 90 minutes of runtime? Let's have a bunch of police scenes every now and again with cops just talking to each other in a boring way where the case just never gets solved. They do that trope where the lead detective is in his final week before retirement and he just happens to have caught his biggest ever case in this final week, the eyeball killer. What are the odds on that? I've seen this happen in so many films before with things like Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon and Robert Duvall in Falling Down. And what usually happens is that the cop will solve the case somehow and then change their mind about retirement. I was surprised it didn't happen here. I was expecting this detective to stand over the body at the end and say something like, God, you know, my wife's going to be pissed tomorrow when she finds out I'm still a cop, because how can I give the badge up when there's scum like this still out there? But no, he doesn't do that in this film, this guy. He just retires anyway. I felt kind of let down by that. He's not doing his duty for Barcelona. That's what I say. Right, it's time to get to the bag of terror so I can show you what score I'm going to give Eyeball. Here's the bag. So we got 1, 2.5 Michael Myers carving knives out of 5. I think that's fair. 2.5 is my sort of medium average score, and it did often feel like there was at least one good thing for every bad thing in this movie. So yeah, 2.5 it is. Right, that's it for today. Thank you for joining me. I'll be back another time. Until next time, cheerio, bye bye.